Welcome to the Photo Banter Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gagne, and on today's podcast, I speak with Joe Rodriguez, who is a current photo editor at Rolling Stone magazine. Joe has previously worked at publications such as ESPN, People magazine, Men's Health, and Entertainment Weekly, to name a few. In this interview, I speak to Joe about growing up in Brooklyn, New York, how he first discovered photography, and what led him to study photography at SVA in New York City. I also speak to Joe about his experience interning for ESPN, which later led to a full-time job as a photo editor within ESPN. Joe also speaks to us about a recent cover shoot he produced for Rolling Stone with photographer Carlos Serrao. Joe is someone who brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in the photo business, so I was pumped to get a chance to speak with him about his journey with photography. So I hope you enjoy, and thanks so much for listening. All right, Joe Rodriguez, welcome to the podcast, man. How we doing, man?
Good. Thank you for having me. I've been a fan for a while and always try to listen when I can. I've never actually done a podcast, so
Hey, man.
if I curse or say anything weird, please forgive me and edit it out.
Hey, man, you can say whatever you want on here, Joe, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, excited to talk to you, man. I love been following you on Instagram for a while, and you've actually been shooting a lot of pictures during like the whole COVID and stuff. I don't know if it's your wife or your girlfriend or whatnot, but it's been interesting to watch this the series kind of progress. The stuff you've been shooting. Whoops, freeze there. Did I freeze there? Did I lose you, Joe?
You're good. Can you hear me? I can see you and hear you.
Yeah, it froze there. No, I was just saying that's been cool to watch you on Instagram. You've been making a lot of pictures, even in quarantine, just from within your house. And it's just been cool to watch because I think that's the one thing a lot of people are struggling with as photographers. It's like it's harder to do certain projects, but it's been kind of cool just watching your project progress, man.
Yeah, I mean, so I thankfully have my girlfriend lives with me now, and it's been nice to have something other than work to think, because it's one of those things like I'm by no means a photographer. I have nothing but the utmost respect for anybody who can earn a living shooting. It is, I went to college because I thought I was going to be. I went to SVA. I'm still paying SVA, way a long time ago. But no, it's one of those things where it's like for a while I didn't take pictures other than just the occasional funny sign or dead bird or something like that. And then I got the bug sitting home because my girlfriend Lewis, she sits next to me and she's just there. And it's one of those things where it's like we're always just there now because we're in quarantine. And what else are you going to do? You need a hobby. You need a hobby. You need something to just keep your brain going. And it's been great.
Man. No, it's great. I love following along on it, and because I was scrolling down even farther on your Instagram before quarantine, you had a great series. You're just kind of shooting I'm guessing your day-to-day commute just on the subway, like snapshots of people and portraits. And is that just something you kind of were doing on the day-to-day, just going to work pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy getting up, and it's that's actually one of the things I miss most about normal times is the commute. Not the actual commute, but seeing people on the commute because it's people watching. And when you live in New York and you take the subway or you take the bus or any sort of mass transit anywhere, I guess, you get some characters. And the New York subway is the great social equalizer. Is somebody else's thing, but it's true. So I just enjoy watching people and really just getting all up in their shit. That's
Yeah, no, it was great to look at. And I don't know if you followed along that photographer Jeff Mermelstein.
Yeah,
and I was interested to get your perspective because as someone who you kind of photographed your photos on the subway, Jeff is doing this whole thing. If people aren't familiar with it, this photographer Jeff Mermelstein basically photographs like anybody's like cell phones. You don't see the person, you just see their text messages. And he's been posting these like personal text messages on his Instagram feed. Like, what do you kind of think about that? Because it's an interesting a lot of people, some people are into it, some people think it's like an invasion of privacy. Well, what's your opinion?
I mean, frankly, if you're, regarding the invasion of privacy, if you're out on the street, you're in public.
Yep.
So that's on you to keep your shit to yourself. Mm-hmm. But no, I think like Jeff is an amazing street photographer and he's a legend. Like the guy's a fucking legend. So for him to find not only a way to sort of, I don't want to say pivot, but just another way to make work and sort of document the same stuff that he sees in a different way. It's
Mm-hmm.
fucking great. It's so like, I love seeing it. He actually lives in, I don't know if he lives in my neighborhood anymore. I would see him. There's like a deli or a bodega. A bodega. There are no true bodegas left in Brooklyn. They're all gone. They're all gone. There's not, actually there's maybe a couple, but for the most part they're gone. But I see him occasionally, and I'm just like, I really like, I have to make sure my phone is in my pocket because he will get you. He will get you. And it's one of those things where when I was an intern at ESPN, I was post internship at ESPN. He shot something for us, so I got to go. It's one of those things where it was meant to look like a documentary thing, but it was a little staged. It was fun. It was it was about like fans. So we got to shoot at an empty giant stadium, which was really cool. So the stadium was empty, the parking lot was empty, but it was like tailgating, faux fans. But just like watching him work, watching him get like really tight and move, and like he's just a curious person, and I love that. I think that's the best. That's what appeals to me most about. I think any like all photography, it's there should be a curiosity that the viewer can probably really feel and see and take away from that. And Jeff is the ultimate curiosity. I don't know personally, Jeff, but Jeff Promosi is the ultimate curious photographer in that way.
It definitely made, like, that was the interesting thing about his work. Like it or not, it definitely starts a conversation, and that's like a hard thing to do. Like I watched some interviews with him, and it was interesting. He's like, yeah, the thing about it is like no one knows who those people are. They're anonymous. You can't really tell. So it makes sense. But yeah, it was really interesting work.
It's I'm glad he's doing it. I'm glad he just, I feel like he hasn't done it. I see he's doing some really fun self-portraits, which again, I think self-portraits are a great project to do it. It's the most intimate thing you can, even if you have your clothes on, it's just super intimate. You're faced with yourself. Yeah. I like that he's doing that too, because again, it's interesting seeing somebody who is so naturally curious, putting pieces of paper on his face and his nose, and it's just so cool.
No, that is true. Like, yeah, actually, now that I think of it, like self-portraits is not something I've really like explored that much. But I was actually last night looking at Vivian Meyer, and she has I think she has like a whole book of like self-portraits, and it's like pretty amazing. But yeah, it is interesting. I guess
I didn't think much of it. Like, so I've been doing like I've been taking pictures. Like I started in middle school in 7th grade, and then when I got to college, I never really thought until I got to college, I never thought about it. Mm-hmm. And I had this class taught by Abby Robinson, who she still teaches. She teaches at SVA. I'm sure she teaches at Pratt and Parsons as well. And it's called Go Shoot Yourself.
Yep.
And it's literally, you at SVA, you go to class once a week. You meet once a week. So it'd be like 15 different self-portrait assignments. And she gives you, I think she still teaches that course, but she gives you these, different constraints to work within. I think it's so like include food or, it's so great. And you really don't think about you don't think about it until you're like, wait, I have to take a picture of me. Like, this is like, some people can't stand themselves. I'm one of them. So
yeah, me too, man. I never take pictures of myself. It's like, I think I have like 4 pictures or something. It's funny.
Keeps you honest though.
Yeah, for sure. I guess to go back, man, like where'd you kind of grow up? Like, have you always lived in New York? And like, how did you kind of initially get into photography?
Yeah, so I grew up in Brooklyn. I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm I seem like one of the few actually left. But yeah, so I grew up in Park Slope, and I went to a middle school, MS-51, where the teacher, it would have to be the same school my mom used to teach at. So she got me into the photo class, which was like the cool thing to do for the kids. Like every kid wanted to do it. And then I just kind of kept doing it. And then I went to high school. I went to I've always gone to public school, but I went to a portfolio program within it. Like you had to show portfolio to get in.
Wow.
And then, so I did it through there, Lincoln High School, which is in Brighton Beach. It's literally it's at almost the end of the F1, so it's the end of Brooklyn.
Okay. Is that because is Coney Island, is that part of Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
That's what I thought. All right.
Yeah. It's just a great area. It's very Russian. There's like super Russian, sort of like really cool, rich Russian community, and then there's you get a pretty good mix of Brooklyn, because then there's a big Hispanic population, there's a Black population, and it's really cool to see how it's one of the few cultural melting pots I think that are left in Brooklyn. I'm sure they're getting gentrified too, like everyone else. But anyway, I went to a high school program out there, and then I went to SVA. Again, I thought I'd be a photographer, and because I don't think you don't think about how much work it actually is until you really see it. And I didn't see it until I was in I got an internship at ESPN magazine. Jim Serber came to visit Sarah Friedman's class. She taught an editorial photography class at SVA, which was the class to get. Like, if you
Does
get
she
that
still
class,
shoot? I was actually thinking about her recently because I've seen her work. She came to my school when I was there. Does she still shoot?
I don't think she shoots. She actually married Aaron Neville from the Neville brothers.
Oh, wow.
So she's like, I think she moved. I don't know if she moved back to Ohio, but I think she's just kind of hanging out. I mean, don't quote me on that, please.
No,
Sarah,
her work is amazing. Yeah.
She's, I mean, she, as far as I'm concerned, she is like, her work and the work, like, I'm a big sports person, and I was, and and so seeing ESPN the magazine, like seeing this oversized tabloid book with these portraits, with these like iconic portraits of athletes, old and new, you're just like, wow. So there's a real world application to your passion. And so Jim Serber, he came and he spoke to our class, and Sarah pulled me aside before. She was like, I know you really like that magazine. They're looking for an intern. Are you into it? I was like, yeah, please. And so I got an internship between my junior and senior year. And that's when I really saw what photo editors did. Katrina Nealon, who is my boss now, she was my first boss then.
Wow.
And so she took me under her wing, and, it was like Katrina, Nancy Wiseman, Maisie Todd, Gladys Prier, Annie McNulty, Jim Serber. It's just this, like, Debbie Edelstein was there for a minute when I was there. Jen Aborn. There's this like super team of photo editors. We were a bi-weekly magazine, so like 9 or 10 of us, and and Derek Harris too was there who's awesome. He's a Town and Country now. He's a great guy. Anyway, so just seeing how professionals spoke about work critically, beyond, which if you went to art school, or anybody who's seen an art school critique, it's like, it works. I don't know, it works. Hearing photo editors, discuss and defend work in some cases I should say defend. They discuss work with, they discuss photographs with the story editors, the writers, the art directors. Seeing that, I was like, it blew my mind. I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is how, like, I can't, it's like, I want to be involved like this because it's something different. It was literally something different every day. Yeah.
Cause like prior to that, you were like in SVA. Like, did you ever think you wanted to pursue shooting, or what did you think?
I think there's a moment at SVA where everybody is under, I don't want to say a delusion, but everybody's under the, because I think for me, it definitely was a delusion. It's such a, I don't think I'm nearly talented enough. I don't think I was talented enough. And I wasn't hungry enough. You have to be really fucking hungry to just not even succeed, but just to make a name for yourself. You have to be willing to shoot, eat shit, shoot, eat shit, because it's a learning thing. And I say eat shit in the best possible way, because it's one of those things where it's like, you have to really figure out a way to work your way up. In the industry, and there are different ways to go about it, but the way I saw was, and the way that we were kind of taught, was assist, learn how to get your foot in the door, learn how to behave on set, because it's sort of a behavioral thing, just and understand who does what. But so the big thing for me was like, I really see this, but then I see how collaborative being a photo editor is. And I feel like that's never changed. There's more things to think about now. I feel like you used to think like you're just at a magazine, but now we all work at brands. And I think if you're a photo editor or an art director and you work at magazine A, I think you really have to think like, I work at brand A, because it's a brand, because we're in so many different worlds now. But going back to the photo thing, there was a point where I was just like, no, I can't, I don't think I can do this. And I did try. I wanted to shoot, even once I was at ESPN, because I was like a freelance photo assistant, I would still shoot. It was mostly for fun. I never really had, I shot one job for Yellow Rat Bastard, and it was actually the creative director. He was an alumni of the high school program, this guy, Sammy Hajar, who was awesome. And I think, it was like, he gave me a chance. I don't think it was very good. I don't think it even ran. It was not good. So I knew pretty quickly, like, I don't have any regrets. I'm not going to be like, I could still do this.
No, man. Everyone,
I can't.
Yeah, and everyone's passes is so different. Like you never
Yeah.
know what opportunities are gonna come your way, and the fact that you got an opportunity to work at such an amazing magazine like ESPN, that's such a great opportunity, and work with all those like Jim Serber and like Nancy Wiseman, all those great people. Like when you're an intern, like what kind of stuff were they having you work on? Like what was kind of some of the stuff you got to learn just kind of being there?
That was the cool. It was like, there's only so much work to do. So, using your free time was just as important, but like the actual work, like I would, this is still back in the days of contact sheets.
Yeah.
So I would cut, I would cut Katrina's contact sheets. Like she would give me a Kodak 8x10 print box with, she would China pen, selects on the contact sheet, or she'd have Post-its, and you cut them, and then we had scanners, we would flatbed scan. So, the whole workflow, because I was part of the workflow system too. It's like we had digital images, like, because the wire services were still, Getty was still a thing.
Yep.
AP was still a thing. And there were a lot of them for sports. There were a lot of places, but so a lot of photo research, but then making sure all of the images were in the, folders and this and that. But then in my free time, it was such a warm place to be in terms of everybody there, and I feel like it'll depend where you go. Some people have different experiences, but it was just such a warm place. People were really good to each other. Like we hung out outside of work, and everybody, I feel like there's always that, but there is, like, I'm in a fantasy football league with people I worked with 10 years ago from ESPN.
That's great.
So, but just, again, like it was one of those places where everybody there was, I would say, like, what do you do? How are you doing this? What is this for? Why do you do that? Like I talked to the production guys who are tightening up layouts in K4. And like, well, this is this and this and that, like seeing how everything comes together, and you learn. I don't know if you learn, but you really come to respect that everybody who's there is there for a reason. They're there for a reason, and they're there because they're able to do it. And it was just great, just seeing that and understanding that it gives you an appreciation for, not just photo, but art, production, edit, copy, research, like these unsung heroes of magazines and and of the editorial world. That was great, and it made me really appreciate. And I feel like, not that you can just go work anywhere now, but you can understand what it takes to go from one place to another. I mean, obviously, if your interests don't align, it makes it hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just a great learning. And I was there for like 6 years. I honestly, I think if they hadn't moved to Bristol, I might still work there. It was just such a great place. Also, because it's fucking sports. Like how
and they were just doing creative stuff. It was just so much different than like, Sports Illustrated. Love Sports Illustrated. I've had a subscription like my entire life. I still read it.
Yeah.
ESPN was just covering like different types of stories and using photographers that didn't generally like shoot quote unquote like sports or whatever.
Yeah, like Nadav Kander shot Kimbo Slice, for a couple. You're just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, just like the importance of that was, just seeing it and having it be a thing. I mean, granted, budgets were different then, but you're able to get people to and fro places. That was obviously well above my pay grade, but working for Katrina and seeing how she operated and seeing how her departments operated now in 3 places, it's mind blowing to see that there are ways to do it, and there's definitely there's ways to operate within constraints and still be creative and still try and still push boundaries. And then also seeing, when you have a big photo department, because you're in a bi-weekly, you have an amazing art department. So I was working with these, like the creative director when I was there was Siyoung Tza, who was, I think he's at Bloomberg now, or maybe he might be doing freelance, but then there's like these art directors like Robert Festino, he's at Apple now. Like he's doing brand shit.
It's the top tier guys.
He's fucking awesome. And Dragos Liemi, who is at Esquire now. And then I worked with him at WB4, like after that. It's like, like you see, like it was this great feeder place for people who started there, and then it's just like we're everywhere now. It's really cool. So
and with sports, with ESPN, like how did that work within the photo department there? Because obviously you guys have the magazine, which is more like editorial driven, but then like, as you know, sports is like a day-to-day thing with the coverage of like whatever the daily game is and stuff like that, and those type of things. Did the photo department, was it just kind of split into groups? Like you guys are handling like editorial pieces, you guys are handling like the day-to-day sports coverage and things like that, or how did that kind of work?
Well, thankfully, I mean, it's thankfully but it is thankfully. So the website was pretty independent of that. So the day-to-day, like we were in touch with them. Jim crossed over a lot. He was one of like the first true like multimedia editors I think I've ever worked with. But so we would literally just be editorial magazine stuff. But yeah, it's one of those things. We would have a morning meeting, a daily meeting, and then there would be a 4-issue meeting. So you're planning stuff out 2 months in advance. And again, all of that can change. Like you can have a cover set, some guy can blow out his knee, and that's it. Like, you're not doing that. It's over.
Yeah.
And again, it's the pace. It just it trains you to just get good with just getting stuff in and done. Like you can be so precious, but at the same time, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. Like you have, and it's hard. I'm sure it's hard on photographers because we ask a lot of them, and that's going to be everywhere you go, whether it be budget or whether it be turnaround or whether it be just, now even like shooting under COVID, like, I need you to wear a mask. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. Please, please, please. We'll cover everything. Pay hazard this. It's asking a lot, but understanding that, and that was the thing I credit with. Just again, seeing how it really was a relationship you develop with photographers. Even if you only work with them once or twice, you have to respect them, and that's where they learn that you have to respect them too. As not just a photographer, but as artists or as people. It's like shit happens. You have to be able to roll with that too.
Yeah, it really is like a team thing. I get so many times, like especially like you mentioned, like with COVID right now. Like I've been all the shoots, like I did some stuff for the Wall Street Journal, and I've been doing some stuff for like Brown University, but everything has to be like shot outdoors, which is like outdoors in the middle of winter on the East Coast is like
not easy.
No, it's not easy.
You better bring layers, man.
Yeah, all that, but it's it really is team environment, like having the photo editor to have your back, and then the day of the shoot the photographer is kind of doing his thing, and like so many times like photo editors like save my ass because like pushing to like whatever get access or get what you need, a location and stuff, and it really is like to produce the great work that you see in like ESPN or like Rolling Stone. It's not just one person, it's a bunch of people coming together to like make it happen.
Yeah, because ultimately it's a team. And it sounds so cliche, but it really is a team sport, or it's a group process. And again, like photo editors are supported by good editors, story editors who negotiate the access ahead of time or negotiate even just the placement and everything. No two assignments are going to be different.
Yeah.
But we have great teams around us, and we have to support them as well. So. And they support us likewise, and we support you guys, and we try.
Yeah, man.
You try.
Hey, man, I'm sure like sometimes, like, I mean, there's just certain shoots, like you try as hard, you got a goal in mind, but then sometimes stuff just doesn't happen. It's out of your control, really. It just happens sometimes.
Oh, yeah. There was, I worked with Suzanne Regan when I was at EW. She was freelancing. Like she left, and she oversees her father's archive. Ken Regan. But so she, we were talking one day because I had this really stressful shoot. She's like, listen, at the end of the day, you send out your call sheet, you dot your I's, you cross your T's, and you leave the rest of it up to choice, up to chance. That's it. Because that's all you can do.
Oh, yeah.
Just, like, it's on us to do everything that we can do beforehand, making sure you guys are set up to succeed, or at least to set up to get into the door. You got to get your foot in the door. That's really it. And the rest of it's like, I can't tell you to take it. So I feel like there are some photos where we're like, hey, I need it to be like, look like this, like da-da-da. It's like, unless it's, and I get it, because sometimes you have really formatted layouts or things like that. But in an ideal world, it's always like, all right, I'm trying to get you to.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of times it's out of everybody's hands. It comes down to the subject. If the subject doesn't want to do something or whatever. And I'm sure a lot of times, because especially Rolling Stone, you guys are shooting like high profile people, like musicians and celebrities or whatever. So PR people, that's probably a whole battle in itself sometimes. So it's like, yeah, like you said, you only can do what you can do, put your best effort forward, and do what you can with whatever's in front of you pretty much.
Yeah. And even then, dealing with PR people, they're doing their job too.
100%.
I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's a stretch for me to say that at times it can be difficult.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing applies. It's a collaborative effort. You have to, it's on me to communicate that we have our and their best intentions for their clients' best intentions in this. It's like we're not trying to make anybody look bad.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's an important thing to remember, because things get stressful. That's always a thing. But
Yeah. So once you kind of left ESPN, what was kind of your next move after that? Like I know you've gotten to work at some pretty amazing magazines.
Yeah, so I've bounced around a little bit. Actually worked at Muscle and Fitness for a really short time, with Toby Kaufman, who I met her. I interviewed there with her at Maxa once, and she was like, "Hey, I need somebody," and it was you're always going to have a job where it's like maybe this isn't the right fit. But Toby and Toby is still like a mentor to me. She's great. So it's like sometimes the job's not great, but the people are. You kind of go with it. And I went to Men's Health because Robert Fassino, who I'd met at ESPN, he was the creative director at Men's Health. So he's like, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody." And that's where I met with, I got to work with Jeannie Graves and Mike Schneidt and these amazing, amazing people who, they're both at Fast Company now, which is even cooler. It's like they're still,
she's great. She is so nice.
Yeah, she's the best. I mean, like she's very much like a big sister to me. We're both Scorpios, so we just joke around. We both have very similar temperaments, and we do, but also, she's somebody who I being like she really. Because it's someone, it was my first time. It was not my first. It was my, it's like the first real monthly that I worked at in terms of like really being there and being at a place where photography is. I shouldn't say it's not like we didn't value it. It's like you have to move. You can't fight about things in layout. You can't waste time on the minutia. But because we're doing conceptual stuff, and that's something I learned from Jeannie that you have to. I learned how to advocate for the photography once it gets into layout. It's like you really have to be able to speak and understand why the art department, like what they have to do, and I have to be able to communicate what I want to make sure doesn't happen. It's one of those things. Like I just want to make sure that we're respecting the image, but at the same time, there's some battles you're just not going to win.
Yeah.
So, but working at Men's Health, it was just like, I've never been able to make such, like I did a ton of still life. I'd never done it before. And it was conceptual stuff. So I'd work with these like amazing still life photographers who just were like, they would just make these images where you're just like, this was a sketch on a piece of paper and now you guys are doing it.
Yeah.
And that was just fucking awesome.
Who are like some of your favorite still life guys? Because still life photography, I want to like interview some more of these guys because it is like such a unique skill, like still life. One of my favorite guys is Dan Salinger. I don't know if you know his work. His stuff, like you said, these you give them like an idea and like it's like an illustration. It's like, and sometimes it's like, why didn't I think of that? It's just like, you know what I mean? It's it's a crazy skill.
So I would say my favorite is Levi Brown. Who like Levi is one of my favorite people. Like he's just in terms of like talk. Just we would spend days. Like literally, like we'd shoot for an entire day. We'd do like 5 shots a day, which is a lot. It's more than anybody should be doing. But we had the budgets what they had to only do a day. But so Levi was just somebody who really, and it was sort of like when it started to click, like. The good photographers are curious people. Like you're just like, he just wanted to understand everything. He was like, oh, we could do it like this. And, and having a sense of humor helps me. You guys one of the driest people I've ever met because he's just so dry and like biting but he's smart and his sense of humor it shows in what he does. And he gave somebody else the best advice, which I have taken from him was, whenever, because he went to RIT and he'd always give these talks. And he's like, the kids asked me like, what should I do? How do I get hired? He would say, make the work you want to make. That'll get you hired. Yep. And I think that's the best piece of advice I've ever heard given by, anybody in this industry to a photographer, because it's the truth. If you're not making stuff you're not passionate about, nobody wants to look at it. It's obvious.
Yeah.
So Levi was great. Travis Rothbone, he just makes like the fanciest looking stuff. He makes everything look good. Claire Benoit, Claire Benoit. I feel like I always butcher her name, but she's awesome and she's still working and she makes she just makes some awesome fucking work. Victor Prado was great. Sam Kaplan.
How do you generally like find photographers like these days? Like, cause you guys are shooting all around the world, like different stuff. Like, how are you generally discovering photographers? And is that something you're like continually as a photo editor looking for new people to hire, or is it you feel like you kind of go back to the same kind of group of people, or how do you kind of discover people? I guess.
It depends. Like, obviously, it depends on where the shoot is.
Mm-hmm.
Because 9 times out of 10, you can't really travel. You can't. There's not budget to send somebody too far unless it's like a quick, like hour flight. Maybe.
Yeah.
But it's always who's there or
Mm-hmm.
who's going to be there. I think the best thing a photographer can do is let photo editors they know or want to work with know that they're going to be somewhere where they're not normally.
Okay.
Sometimes it just works. Sometimes it just works out. You're just like, hey, I'm going to be in DC. Like, really?
Yeah.
Or like when I had when Daniel Dorsa shot AOC for me last year, last year,
Mm-hmm.
he happened to be in Miami and he was coming back. He's like, I can just delay it, and it worked out. It took a little bit of judging, but it worked out. It's one of those things like, if you can make it work, if you can let us know where you are, it's always good. But so to answer the question, it's always where you are. And then, depending on the mood of this, it's like depending on the story, depending on, when I say the story, I mean, like, is it a person, who the person is, what the tone of the story is, and then obviously budget. Budget's the big thing too. And then, there's definitely a more nuanced conversation to have about how we assign. And, but in terms of like how we find people, it's a lot on Instagram. I still love getting, like actual emails from people, like first promos are great too, but now we're working from home. It's like,
Yep.
I prefer not to have a bunch of paper piling up, which I do next to me. I don't think.
So people are sending you promos to your house now?
I've been, well, it's fine. Like I've only gotten a couple of requests but recently, and it's fine. It's like, it's good to know. And sometimes it's nice to have a thing.
Yeah.
But, even getting an email that says, hey, Joe, I'd love to work with you. Here's a sample of my work. Short, sweet. And when it actually, like, when it hits, like when it really lands, because it's work that, I should say that can be understood, but it's when it's work that, meshes with our aesthetic.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's a big thing that needs to be sort of pushed out into the world more is, you can want to shoot for everybody, but in terms of like the actual, like, I think your aesthetics have to mesh for it to be less of a stretch sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's sort of like a round hole, like, square into a round hole. It's like, I don't see it. It's like, your work's good, but maybe it's not good for us. And I think that's something that's hard to hear, but it's one of those things where you just have to say it sometimes. Like it's a stylistic match.
Definitely. And because like you're at Rolling Stone now. So when you're looking at photographers, is it important to you guys that they're actively photographing musicians, or is it if they have strong portraiture, you'll still like look at it as a potential opportunity to utilize someone, but maybe their portfolio isn't filled with like musicians or something, I guess?
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, and like the Griffin or Sasha or even Katrina might say something different, but I personally, as long as I can see the desired outcome in the work, like as long as it's like the hints of it, it could be a picture of, some politicians are hard because they can be a little stiff, but it can be, like somebody on TV, it could be a C-list actor. It's like, as long as they understand that moment, as long as they understand what they're going for, and I feel like as long as there's a clear intention.
Yep.
Behind the work, I don't really care who's in it. I don't care who's in the picture. That being said, I think, there's a difference between photographing, friends and family, because there's a certain comfort that comes from that. There's a certain easing into this, as opposed to when I call you and I'm like, hey, you have 15 minutes with so-and-so, you got to be ready to go.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to get that. So there is, and a lot of that's on us too, to say, okay, I think this person's ready. And there's definitely, now at least, there's a lot of Slack conversations that we have. It's like, I think they can do that. Like, I can see that. And it's like working with Sasha, who is like an encyclopedia. Sasha, who's been on your show.
Oh, yeah.
Like Sasha Leka he's a fucking OG. Like, he just has this amazing level of it's this like encyclopedic knowledge of photography,
and a badass, like, and that's not even
shooter.
blowing.
Yeah.
That's not even blowing
No.
smoke, man. Like, that dude's a fucking legit. Like, in terms of music photography, like live shit, like,
yeah,
he's the top of he's up there, man.
He's
like,
awesome. No, he's awesome. Like, his book is great.
Yeah.
So promo for that. I'll plug that. No, I mean, no, but for real, it's like Sasha is some, and And in terms of like just the way he just over here, like I can hear him on the phone because we sit next to each other in the office, or before the old office, like we sat behind each other. Like you could just hear the way he would talk, and he understands. He has this great talent, just ability to understand like how to speak to photographers. It's like because he understands what it's like to take what it takes to take a picture. Like there's this, like I will defer to sensibilities all the time. It's like I'm just telling you what I need.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I feel like if I'm talking to somebody to shoot something, it's because what I'm looking for is what they would want to make too. Like I would want to make somebody to go, I wouldn't want to ask somebody to go take a picture somebody else would take.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, like if I see photographer A, I want photographer A's type of picture of person C, because that's what this should be. But yeah, just like sitting with Sasha and hearing him work, and then even just like seeing how he, because he does he does the bulk of the features, and I work, essentially he's my boss. Just it's a pleasure and just so cool to talk work with him because he understands it and he has those amazing sensibilities, and that's stuff you don't necessarily. I don't think you just sometimes you're just like, wow, like he's awesome, that guy's good. But so I was just gonna say it's like when we think about stuff, it's a lot of like, hey, what do you think of this? Like, let me just literally just run this by you. What do you think about person A for this? And he's like, like, or B or C. He goes, I think B would be better just given what this story is. And then, there's obviously the budget conversations too to have, but we make that work.
And do you think like when you're going to give someone their first shot, like shooting for you guys, is there something you're looking for like on their website? Like, do you prefer to see like tear sheets of like other clients they've worked for to kind of show like the previous experience, or does that not even really matter when you're looking to hire someone for the first time, I guess?
Hey, well, I don't want to say it does it. I want to say it helps. But at the same time, you always do want to find somebody who's like never shot for a magazine for like, hey, please go on and do this. But yeah, I'm not going to lie. Like having some level of experience helps. But the problem is not everybody has had that. So yeah, there are some definite leaps of faith you have to take. And, it's one of those things like maybe it's not a huge, image that you're going and asking them to do. Maybe it's a smaller placement, but yeah, it's and I don't want to say it doesn't help. It does help to see that they've done something before or they've had stuff, but even if the work's good, shit, sometimes that's all it really takes. Like if the work is really, really good, they can do it.
Definitely. Yeah, because like prior to coming to Rolling Stone, like was music and like that kind of world, was that like something you're interested in, just like all the history or things like that, or not so much?
I don't want to say not. It's the one thing I like about Rolling Stone is they're big. I am definitely entertainment and like movie TV kind of buff. So them still having a very robust coverage of that helps. And that's really what I can sink my teeth into more. So I always default to Griffin and Sasha on the music stuff.
Yeah, but, that is the cool thing about you guys. It's not just music. You guys cover all different types of stuff. Like one of my favorite writers, that guy Matt Taibbi, who's written for Rolling Stone forever, is like an incredible writer. And there is like a wide array of things you guys cover.
And it's it's one of the things like I've learned so much just watching this, like just watching the Politics Slack channel or watching the culture editors talk.
Yeah,
because you have a very like kind of narrow, nuanced view of things, and you hear these, or you read in this case now, working from home, you read their thoughts on the current events, and you're just like, fuck, that makes sense. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, just being able to see, and then we have a very, like you said, like we have a wide range of things we cover, and it's awesome. Because it is never the same thing twice. It's the fact that we're monthly. There are tentpole issues, so there are things that we know are coming up, but it's never the same people twice. There's never the same coverage twice.
Were you there? Because it used to be bi-weekly, and then it switched to monthly. Were you there during the?
No, I was still people in EW for that. I came I think they'd done about 3 issues.
Got it.
From then, but yeah, so. And even that was a big difference going from being at 2 weeklies to a monthly. a monthly and a website, because I also do web stuff. Griffin's the main web photo editor there, and how he does it, I don't know. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, dude.
It's a lot of work. Like I'm happy to help any way I can. Same with like Griffin and Sasha. Like I'm just happy to help them.
Definitely. And I know one cover, I was looking at your website, you got the chance to work on a cover with Adam Driver.
Yeah.
For it was like a Star Wars kind of themed cover, and you got to work with amazing photographer Carlos Serrao.
Yeah.
How was your kind of experience working on that cover, and what kind of was involved kind of putting that together?
That was, that was a lot. So, just because it was obviously it's a cover, I feel like every cover should get the utmost attention, and it does. Like you have to think of, you have to really put your mind to it. And that was also, it was stressful. I'm not gonna lie, because it was my first cover for Rolling Stone, and like the fact that I even got a cover for Rolling Stone, was like, really, me?
Yeah, man.
But no, like working with Carlos that was actually Katrina's idea. She worked with Carlos. We worked with him a lot at ESPN. He shot a bunch of stuff, and he's just fucking awesome. So, we're just like, he'd be perfect for this. And we just, we looked at his site. We were like, I pulled a bunch of swipe. I went over with Katrina. I was like, I think this should be the vibe. Because Adam is somebody he's a big, imposing guy, but at the same time, there is an elegance and a grace to the way he just carries himself, the way he moves. And, Carlos he has this great, it's just this ability to, stop movement and make you really feel as if it's still moving and a still image. And there is just, does that make sense?
Definitely. Yeah. His work, the stuff he does, I don't know if it's just like drag shutter, but all the cool stuff he does with like gels and stuff. Like he's just on it. Like when you see like a Carlos Serrao picture,
Yeah. I really, one of my favorite pictures of his was he shot Nademkas. I can't even say his name. He plays football for the Detroit Lions, but he shot him like bursting through a cloud of who knows what for GQ. And it's this image where it's like, there's always pictures people think of, and I just love that picture. I'll send it to you when we're done.
Yeah.
So you can kind of understand. And it's just like, it's this, it's a still image, but there's definitely motion happening, but you feel it, and it just feels so rich and so beautiful. And so that was, going into that. And so there's back and forth. Like, this is who we're hoping to have shoot it. Not even who we're hoping, like, this is who we want to have shoot it. And then, sometimes you have to, not want to say push, but you have to really kind of talk to the reps about it a little more than others. But again, it happened. The shoot's always going to happen.
And like, how much like creative input do you guys give to photographers? Maybe it varies from like cover to other assignments. Like, are you kind of giving them like exact points of like, this is what we want it to look like exactly? Or do you kind of hire the person and just kind of let them do their thing? Or how do you kind of handle the creative aspect of like putting these shoots together?
It's a little bit of all of those. I think, and granted, it's always going to differ from person to person. Like the way I assign can be different from the way Sasha Griffin assigns, or anybody else. But I think the way I normally the way I try to. Sometimes you just exactly what you need. You're just like, this is really what I need. But 9 times out of 10, or it's really 10 times out of 10, I'll pull a bunch of swipe. I'll say, this is the look, this is the mood we're going for, and this is, the world I'm hoping in which you can reference from your own work. And sometimes you kind of pull from older stuff that they've done. You're like, are you still feeling this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to not do this like this? And I totally get it. And then you find, a common ground. And then again, you have to hope that your best laid plans are gonna, because Murphy's Law will fuck you, man.
Hey, man. Well, your first cover for Rolling Stone, it came out good.
that was great. That was it was like, and it was the fact that like Katrina's been very good to me. When we were at People, we were able to do these special issues, which on top of the 55 issues a year they do at People, there's always a special issue for the Star Wars movies when they come out. So she would let me literally just be the main photo person on setting up a portrait gallery or a portrait studio wherever, at whatever conference center they do the reveals for. So we'd get time with talent, and then those portraits would be in this whole special issue with all the stills. And so she, it was like, from that, there's just, I've been able to work on a lot of Star Wars stuff. So she really let me, she definitely helped.
I think, we only skipped over the People stuff. I was looking at your website. I think you did you do a shoot with Wayne Gretzky?
Yeah, I did a shoot with Wayne Gretzky and Joey. I can't remember his name. Who actually he just passed away. But yeah. So which was that was pretty fun. Yeah, that was Alice Naliano. She shot that for me. It was at this fantasy camp that Gretzky's been doing for years. And Joey was I forgot how he knew Joey. I think he knew Joey from like back in like when he played for Edmonton, maybe.
Yeah.
He'd been there for a while, but so Joey worked at the camp with him, and it was just it was a great story about the bond they had. But yeah, that was like, wait, I'm emailing with Wayne Gretzky's agent right now. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was great, man.
Yeah.
And one thing as a photographer, I'm always interested in like pitches. Is certain magazines are into them, certain magazines are not. For you, are pitches something you receive a lot, and do they ever? What kind of sticks out if a pitch ever does work? I guess.
So it is definitely. It definitely depends on where you are. Like if people, I think, and again, I'm speaking in past tense. I feel like pitches were really hard because there's a agreement in terms of the coverage. It's like like we're giving you time because we're promoting something. And don't be like everybody who is in a magazine intentionally or who is in a magazine is promoting something. Everything is pegged to something. Yep. So pitches are hard because you have to have either access to what you're pitching, like it's really hard for us to facilitate, somebody saying, hey, I want to shoot Lady Gaga. You're like, great, everybody else does too. Like, do you know, like, do you have an in, what's she promoting? It's hard in that. But again, I feel like if you work at a place where, like for us with music, like there are stories, like there are personal shots. Like Dan Tapodi just did something for Sasha it was a book that he was doing, and we featured some of his. Actually, I don't know if it's actually out yet. You might not cut that out. But it's one of those things where it's like sometimes there's. I feel like if the work exists, and it's like personal work and it relates to the outlet or the brand that you're promoting it to, pitches are really easy that way. But if you have, I'm trying to think, there were a couple of stories where we've done where it's literally just like, hey, like what are you thinking of right now? Like, what do you feel is relevant to? It was definitely related to a lot of the George Floyd things we were able to do. Some really cool shoots with Robinson and Alexis Hanley. Raheem Fortune shot some great stuff for Sasha then, and
Anthony B. Gathers did some cool stuff for you guys.
Yeah, Anthony, and that was like for I remember when I emailed him, he was like, hey, can you shoot this? He's like, yeah, I'm going there anyway. So Anthony's like, he's like, what a saint, that guy's awesome. But so it's one of those things where it's like sometimes it just aligns, but there's that being said, there's a careful line that we have to draw. It's like, how much are we appropriating? Like, how much are we just taking? Like, are we giving anything back in this way? So it has to be, and there's a big conversation going on too in terms of, whose stories are we telling? Are we in the place to tell these stories? And I think that's a really important thing that brands, it's good to be inclusive, but are you in the right position to tell these stories? Are we in the position to tell these stories? I think it's a very tricky thing, especially when pitches come in. It's like, are we the right person? Are we the right group to do this for you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of work the last couple of years. I've had some luck, and it's like, I think that's the thing I realized. Like some magazines and publications are really looking for it because they need content or whatever, and others are doing their own thing, which is totally cool. But I think it's just kind of a feel thing. You can kind of sense it, I guess.
It's almost like niche sometimes. If that's maybe not niche, it is. It's just like it just has to be like that perfect thing. Like it just fits right in there.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, like I'm trying to think of something recently where it's just like nothing jumps to my head in the last like 6 months or so. But there are things, but I think it's important to think about what are you as the photographer bringing to the pitch? It's like, is this just a wish list thing, or do you have a plan? Like, do you have an actual like are these attainable actionable goals?
I've just been pitching stuff that's like within my means that I can actually facilitate and make happen. Because it's been a good way to like get my foot in the door some way. Because if you like pitch a good idea and then it works out, it kind of can lead. I've had some luck that way, but it's hit or miss.
It's important though, because it's just like it's reading the room. It's kind of like knowing like where you send your promos to. It's like are they applicable to where you're sending them? Like, are you literally just sending them and hoping for some responses? Like, I think you should know it's the same way you're pitching, the same way you're reaching out. Like, you should really put thought and care into it.
Yeah.
Because it shows, and we appreciate it. I think the royal we as photo editors, but no, like I think it's appreciated. And I think, like maybe this thing doesn't align, but it'll stick with you.
Yeah, it just shows they did their legwork, did their research, and actually were like thoughtful and like who they actually have an interest in what you're actually doing. It's not just like they're not sending you food photography to like some car magazine or something.
I get food photographs. I get some, and don't get me wrong, like it takes a lot, and I appreciate everybody who shoots and makes a living doing it or trying to, because it takes a lot. Like, that's not easy. I couldn't do it, so I'm not going to knock the hustle. Yeah,
definitely. And for people listening that might have an interest in pursuing a career in like photo editing or things like that, like what kind of things do you think skills do you need to have to be a good photo editor, you think, and like what's a good way to kind of get your foot in the door to kind of getting into that type of role?
Jeez, it's I don't think I don't know if I have like a piece, like a genuine, like, do this, because I don't think there's like one singular path. Like, like I went to art school because I thought I was going to be a photographer. My old boss at People, Alana Schweber Kaplan, she did an internship at a law firm when she was in college, and somehow she ended up working in magazines, and now she's the photo director at People.
Yeah.
So you're just like, everybody has a different way in which they go into it.
Yeah.
But I would always say, try to intern if you can do it, and obviously if there are internships. Like now, I don't know what the hell they're doing with internships, but I would say intern. Intern, and really just. And if you do get your foot in the door, soak up every piece of information and not just the, how do you do it? How do you ask the photos of like what everybody does? Because you might actually bounce into being an art director. You might bounce into being a production.
True.
It's like there's a very, it's also fluid sometimes. It could just go, you can just go to different directions. I would say try to get an internship. Obviously, yeah, sometimes going to art school helps because you do make contacts, people, but I don't think I was thinking about this actually today for you to ask. I don't think going to art school is like the only way to do it. I really don't. I think it helps. I mean, for me, it personally helped. Like for me, yes, it 100% opened the door that I needed to get in. But yeah, I don't know, like some people just get in. Like actually, I think Alana did intern. But again, it's like you intern somewhere and then you go definitely. And you figure it out from there. You just, it's on you once you're there.
Definitely. I think, like you said, you don't have to go to art school. Like one of my favorite photographers I assisted for, a really successful guy in Boston. He didn't go to art school. He just had a love of photography. He started putting his book together and hit that pavement, And
that's it. It's because it's like you have your book. I mean, like I remember like I had a book, I would drop it off. You're just like, fuck, this is cool. And this is so like, I'm going to the messenger center and, and it's such a thing. It's like, but like you realize like your book is going in a stack of books. And again, it's just like your email or your promo is going into a stack. It's going into an inbox of somebody. So there's like 13 others in their inbox that day. Maybe there's just one.
Yep.
And they'll definitely look at it. Or maybe not. You never know.
Oh, this is probably a really weird question, or maybe not. I think about this all the time when emailing photo editors. Yes. Does email subject titles, do people use clickbait, and does it work? Or like what? Because you obviously get a lot of emails from photographers. What do you open all of them? What gets you to actually open up and look at their work? Because that's like something I think about a lot.
Personally, I try to answer I try to at least look at every email and hopefully answer everybody back at some point. Yeah. But I don't know, let me just look at my email. Hold on.
Do you feel like you're getting more promos or less now with COVID and stuff because people can't come by and show their work and it's harder to send promos, or is it still this kind of the same?
I would say a little more. I think the thing that has really changed it is Instagram. You can get DMs.
Yep.
And so, which is why I put my email address in my thing, because I'm fine to get a DM. I'm also fine to get an email, but it's one of those things.
You don't mind that people reach out on Instagram?
No, I don't mind, but it's one of those things where I think it's funny when it's like, it's because not everybody does it. It's not like there's any one etiquette. way to go about this, but it's like I put my email in there and then I'll get DMs saying, hey, what's your email? And I'm like, it's literally right
in the bio,
it's literally it's right. And I looked, I was like, it's literally right above where it says message. So but again, like somebody wrote me an email today, like introduction, their name.
Yeah.
And like at this point, I think it's actually I do notice that a little more when they follow you on Instagram. You're like, oh, that's so and so's, because it can be such a different, like your feed is obviously it can be this or it can be that or it can be all over the place. And the website is something that, okay, when I want to just cut through the bullshit and not see what you had for lunch, I want to see your pictures.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to just keep it really simple. Just say, like Alex Gagne, photography, whatever. It just or just say introduction. Hey, this is my name, whatever.
Boston, look at my kit. That's what I say.
Well, especially because it's one of those things like there's so many photographers.
And so many, dude.
Yeah. I'm just trying to. I know, and they're great. That's the thing. It's like if you make like people who I don't know. I'm trying to because I think I got one today, and it's just like somebody who. Sorry, I know this is like dead air for you, but
nah, it's all right, man. This is interesting stuff because I know so many photographers. It's just like it's harder and harder. There's less magazines, less issues. So any tricks or tools they can learn to get their foot in the door.
Yeah, it said photographer introduction, and you know what? That'll
good.
Catch me. Yeah, because like how many times do you see introduction in a subject line?
Yeah.
So or you're like, hey, just greetings or something like that, but just something that's really simple to the point. Don't be too shticky because sometimes it can come off as like, is this spam or is this not spam?
Yeah. I just put my name and then I put my city and then my email is like one or two sentences and that's it.
Yeah, which I personally, I think that's perfect. I think you don't. I hate saying. I'm saying I a lot. I apologize for that.
All right.
No, it's the worst. It's a really bad habit. No, actually, my high school photo teacher, he's the man. He described somebody else as their favorite word is I, and you're just like, fuck, is that me? He wasn't talking about me. It was somebody else. We were just like, fuck, I don't want to be that person, but here I am.
All right, man.
No, you're good. Yeah, simplicity is the way to go. Just keep it simple.
Yep.
Hey, I'm blah blah blah. Here's my link. Here's a PDF.
Definitely. Well, I guess to wrap up, Joe, like anything you're kind of hoping to work on, you've been in this business for a while, kind of worked at a lot of different publications, accomplished a lot of cool stuff. Like we're in the new year, anything you're kind of hoping to work on down the future, any goals for yourself, I guess?
Stay employed.
Yeah,
obviously. I'm not gonna lie. I don't have a lot of, I don't. I tried to set just the goal of.
I like it, dude.
Stay employed. Keep head small and not be an asshole.
I like it, man. Well, Joe, dude, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for taking the time to do this, dude.
No, thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, stay in touch and hopefully. Once COVID's over, I'll get down to New York, man. We can meet in person.
Yeah, come visit. We'll get a beer.
All right, later, Joe. Take care.
Right, take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.
So there you have it. That was the Joe Rodriguez interview. I just want to thank Joe for taking the time to come on the podcast. It was a real pleasure talking to him about everything he's kind of accomplished within his career. He's gotten to work at some amazing publications like we talked about at ESPN and People and Rolling Stone now. Really, really interesting stuff, kind of hearing his insight and his career path as a photo editor and what he looks for when hiring photographers. I know I learned a lot, so can't thank him enough. Definitely go check Joe's Instagram out at Photo Editor Joe. He's always posting up cool photos up on there that he takes, so definitely go give him a follow. And as always, I'll be having weekly podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as well as the Photo Banter YouTube page. So definitely go check out our YouTube page and hit subscribe. It'd be much appreciated. I'm also doing a giveaway with Sekonic meters right now. So if you go subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment on the Sekonic giveaway video, you'll be entered for a chance to win the Sekonic light meter. And as always, thanks so much for listening and take care.